The idiot is gone. I'm coming. Get ready, I'm craving you. My wife sent that spicy text to me by mistake instead of her lover. I later found out she was cheating with her own cousin and planning to take my assets. It was 11 p.m. when the phone vibrated on the dining table. I had just gotten home from the gym, still in sweaty clothes, when I saw the notification light up the screen. It was from Camila, my wife of 6 years. The idiot's already gone. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Get ready because I'm coming eager. My brain took a few seconds to process what I had just read. I looked towards the stairs, where Camila was supposedly taking a shower after her yoga class. The water was still running in the second-floor bathroom. I read the message again. Then I looked at the contact's name. It was me. She had sent that message to me. The silence of the house became deafening. I could hear my own pulse hammering in my ears as I held the phone with hands that were starting to tremble. 6 years of marriage. 6 years of blindly trusting the woman who slept next to me every night. 6 years building a life together while she apparently built another life behind my back. The message was still there, bright and obscene on the screen, like an open wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. Then I heard the water turn off upstairs, Camila's footsteps on the wooden floor. She was getting closer. I'm Rodrigo. I'm 34 years old and I work as an operations supervisor at a logistics company. Camila is 32. She's an accountant at a firm downtown. We met at a New Year's party 8 years ago. She was wearing a blue dress that matched her eyes. I had just arrived in the city without knowing anyone, and she came over with 2 glasses of champagne, saying I looked like I needed one. We got married 2 years later in a small ceremony. Just close family and intimate friends. We bought this house in the suburbs 4 years ago. 3 bedrooms, a backyard, a 20-year mortgage, the American dream. Or so I thought. Camila's footsteps were coming down the stairs. I could hear the rustle of her robe against the wall. In a matter of seconds, she would walk into the living room and see me there holding my phone with that message still on the screen. I had to decide quickly what to do. Confront her immediately, stay silent, and investigate further. Act as if nothing had happened. My mind was processing options at lightning speed as the sound of her footsteps got closer and closer. Then I did something I didn't even expect myself to do. I turned off the phone screen, left it on the table exactly where it was, and headed to the kitchen as if nothing had happened. Camila walked into the living room the exact moment I opened the refrigerator. She was wearing her white towel robe, her wet hair falling over her shoulders. She looked relaxed, fresh, beautiful, even, as always. Nothing in her expression betrayed that she had just made a mistake that would shatter her life. She smiled at me. That smile I had loved for years now seemed like a perfectly rehearsed mask. Want some water? I asked, holding a bottle. Yes, please. She came over and gave me a kiss on the cheek. You smell so good, like the gym. Her tone was teasing, but affectionate. The same tone as always. How was yoga? I asked as I handed her the water. Intense. The new instructor is ruthless. Everything hurts. She laughed as she stretched, showing me her back. Can you give me a massage later? Sure. The word came out of my mouth automatically, part of the routine we had perfected over the years, but inside something had broken irreparably. Camila picked up her phone from the dining table. I saw her eyes widen slightly when she looked at the screen. Just for a second. A flash of panic that disappeared as quickly as it appeared. She realized. She had read the message she sent me. She knew I had seen it, but she said nothing, not a word. She simply locked the screen and placed the phone face down on the table. Everything okay? I asked, watching her closely. Perfectly. Her smile didn't waver. I'm going to put on a movie. Are you coming? In a moment. Let me take a shower first. I went up the stairs, feeling her gaze fixed on my back. I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I leaned against the sink and looked at myself in the mirror. The man looking back at me had red eyes and a tense jaw. I took my phone and opened the messaging app. The text was still there. I took a screenshot. Then I deleted the original message. If Camila checked my phone later, she would find a clean conversation. But I had the evidence saved in a safe place. As the hot water ran down my back, my mind was working at full speed. I needed more information before acting. I needed to know who he was, how long this had been going on, if there was more. The betrayal hurt like a knife stuck in my chest, but the survival instinct was stronger. I wasn't going to confront her until I had all the cards in my hand. I wasn't going to give her the chance to lie, manipulate, or turn the situation around. This time, I would be in control. When I came down, Camila was curled up on the sofa with a blanket, looking at her phone. She quickly put it away when she saw me come in. She had chosen a romantic comedy we had seen 1,000 times. I sat next to her, and she rested her head on my shoulder. Her hair was still damp and smelled of her usual shampoo, that coconut scent I had fallen in love with the first time we slept together. Now that same smell made me nauseous. "I love you," she murmured against my neck halfway through the movie. "I love you too," I replied, and it was true. I still loved her. That made everything hurt 1,000 times more. That night, while Camila slept soundly beside me, I took my phone carefully so as not to wake her and checked her location history on our shared family app. We had installed that app 2 years ago after Camila's car was stolen. It was for security, to know where the other was in case of an emergency. I never thought I would use it for this. The dots on the map told a completely different story from the one she had been telling me. Tuesday night yoga classes actually ended in an apartment building on the other side of town. Lunches with her friends on Saturdays were at the same place. The supposed work events on Friday nights. Always the same building, always the same address. I searched for the address online. It was a luxury apartment complex in the financial district, with a monthly rent of approximately $2,500 for a studio, too expensive for an ordinary employee. Whoever lived there had money. My stomach twisted when I realized I had been unknowingly funding this infidelity. Every time Camila asked me for extra money for her gym, for outings with friends, for new clothes, it had all been to keep this lie going. I checked our shared bank accounts from my phone. ATM withdrawals near that building, payments at restaurants in the area, purchases at boutiques she never mentioned, thousands of dollars over months, maybe years. My breathing became heavy, and I had to leave the room so as not to wake Camila with the sound of my contained rage. In the kitchen, with trembling hands, I poured myself a glass of whiskey. I'm not a drinker, but that night I needed something to numb the pain that was eating me up inside. I thought about all the signs I should have seen, the nights she came home late, the new interest in looking good, in exercising, in buying expensive underwear, the long silences when I asked her about her day, the way she protected her phone, always with the screen down, always with a password, how she had started showering as soon as she got home, before even greeting me. It all made sense. Now everything fit into a horrible puzzle that had been in front of my eyes all this time. The alcohol burned my throat, but it didn't relieve anything. I stood there in the dark of the kitchen looking at the photos on the refrigerator. Camila and me on our honeymoon in Cancun. Camila and me buying this house. Camila and me at my brother's wedding. Wide smiles, genuine hugs, a love that seemed indestructible. At what point had all that become a lie? At what point had I stopped being enough for her? I went back to the room when it was almost 1 in the morning. Camila was still asleep, breathing deeply, oblivious that her world was about to collapse. I lay down as far away from her as possible, although the queen-sized bed didn't give much space. I closed my eyes, but sleep didn't come. My mind kept replaying that message over and over again. The idiot's already gone. I was the idiot, the stupid one who worked overtime to pay for the house, the car, the vacations, the idiot who stayed up late finishing reports while she was sneaking around with someone else. The fool who thought he had a happy marriage while his wife was laughing at him behind his back. At 6 in the morning, my alarm went off as it did every day. Camila woke up with me as always. "Good morning, love," she murmured in a sleepy voice. "Good morning," I replied. I got up and went to the bathroom. The usual routine: shave, shower, get dressed. But nothing was the same. I wasn't the same man I had been 24 hours ago. That man had died with a text message. The one looking at himself in the mirror now was someone new, someone colder, someone who knew exactly what he had to do. I went down to breakfast. Camila was already in the kitchen making coffee like every morning. She was wearing my favorite shirt, that blue plaid one that was always huge on her, but that I loved to see her wear. She looked so normal, so domestic, so perfect. No one would say she was capable of such betrayal. "Pancakes?" she asked, pointing to the skillet. "Perfect." I sat at the table while she served. "Hey, tonight I have dinner with the girls from work. Do you mind if I'm late?" "Not at all. I'll take the opportunity to watch the game with Daniel." "Perfect." She gave me a kiss on the forehead before putting the plate in front of me. I ate mechanically, each bite tasting like ash. Camila chattered about her day, about a problem with a client at work, about needing to buy dog food. I nodded, responded when necessary, played my part perfectly, but my mind was elsewhere. I was planning. I left the house at 7:30, like every day. Camila saw me off at the door with a kiss and an "I love you" that sounded so sincere that for a moment I doubted everything. But then I remembered the message. I remembered the locations. I remembered the money withdrawals. There was no possible doubt. This was real, and I needed to act intelligently. Instead of going straight to the office, I detoured to the apartment building I had found in Camila's location history. I parked half a block away, where I could see the main entrance without being seen. I didn't know what I expected to find. Maybe a visual confirmation, maybe nothing, but I needed to see that place with my own eyes, to make it something real and not just coordinates on a map. The building was more luxurious than I imagined. Glass facade, uniformed doorman at the entrance, well-kept gardens. The kind of place where people with real money lived. I watched for 40 minutes, seeing well-dressed residents leave for their jobs, executives with leather briefcases, women in designer suits. No one who gave me any clue as to who my wife's lover was. I was about to leave when I saw something that froze my blood. A latest model black BMW came out of the underground parking. I knew that car. I had seen it before, at family gatherings, at Christmas dinners. It was Sebastian's car, Camila's cousin, the same Sebastian who slapped me on the back and called me brother-in-law, with that used car salesman smile. The same one who worked in finance and always bragged about his successful investments. The same one who had been at our wedding, toasting to our eternal love. The rage I felt at that moment was different from anything I had ever experienced before. It wasn't just betrayal from my wife, it was betrayal from family. Sebastian had known Camila since they were kids. They had grown up together, spent summers at their grandparents' house, shared childhood secrets, and yet that hadn't been enough to keep him away from his cousin-in-law's wife. The disrespect was monumental. I photographed the car with my phone, clearly capturing the license plate. Then I followed the BMW at a safe distance. Sebastian stopped at a Starbucks on the way and went in to buy coffee. I saw him through the glass, smiling at the barista, checking his phone. He acted as if he didn't have a care in the world, as if he wasn't destroying a marriage, as if he wasn't betraying his own family. When he came out with 2 coffees in his hand, I felt the urge to confront him right there, to smash his coffee in his perfectly shaved face, to wipe that arrogant smile off with a punch. But I held back. Cold revenge is always better than hot. I needed more information. I needed to build a solid case before destroying their lives. I arrived at my office an hour late. My assistant, Patricia, looked up in surprise when I walked in. "Rodrigo, you have 3 missed calls from the Monterrey warehouse. They say there's a problem with the shipment. I'll take care of it now," I said as I went straight to my office. I closed the door and sat in front of the computer. I couldn't concentrate on shipments or inventories. My mind was completely absorbed by what I had just discovered. I opened Facebook and searched for Sebastian's profile. We weren't friends on the platform, but his profile was public. Photos of trips to Europe, of meals at expensive restaurants, of his latest promotion at the investment firm where he worked. And there, among the recent photos, one that made me clench my teeth so hard my jaw hurt. It was from 3 weeks ago. Sebastian on a beach, shirtless, smiling at the camera. The caption said, "Paradise found. Nothing suspicious, except for one detail." In the reflection of his sunglasses, you could clearly see the person taking the photo, a woman in a blue bikini. The same blue bikini Camila had bought for her girls' trip to Mazatlan last month. The trip from which she returned tanned and relaxed, telling me it had been exactly what she needed. I checked the dates. The weekend Camila was supposedly in Mazatlan with her friends, Sebastian had posted photos from the same beach. Different angles, different times of the day, but definitely the same place. They had been together the whole time. While I was at home working on reports, taking care of the dog, paying the bills, my wife was at a beach resort sleeping with her cousin. I felt the room spin. I had to put my head between my knees to keep from vomiting all that time. It wasn't just casual encounters in his apartment. It was vacations together, romantic getaways, a complete relationship parallel to our marriage. How much more was there? How many other lies? How many times had she looked me in the eyes and lied without blinking? Patricia knocked on the door. "Rodrigo, are you okay? You look pale." "I'm fine," I replied, straightening up in my chair. "Just a bit of a migraine. Can you bring me some water, please?" When she left, I took out my phone and called Daniel, my best friend since college. I needed to talk to someone before I exploded. Daniel answered on the third ring. Brother, what a miracle you're calling. What's up? I need to see you today. It's urgent. Are you okay? Your voice sounds strange. No, I'm not okay. Can you meet on your lunch break? Sure, the usual place. I'll see you there. I hung up and looked at the clock. 3 hours to go. 3 hours in which I would have to pretend to work while my life was falling apart. I answered the urgent emails automatically, took the call from Monterey, and solved the shipment problem without even really processing what I was doing. My body was on autopilot while my mind was still processing the magnitude of the betrayal. At 12:30, I left for the restaurant where Daniel and I always met. It was a small Mexican place, with homemade food and reasonable prices. Nothing glamorous, but the food was good and the waiters knew us. Daniel was already there when I arrived, sitting at our usual table in the back. He saw me come in, and his expression changed immediately. He stood up as I approached. Rodrigo, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. I sat down without saying anything. The waiter came over, but Daniel dismissed him with a gesture. Give me a minute, Cesar. We'll order later. When we were alone, I took out my phone and showed him the screenshot of the message. Daniel read it in silence. I saw his face go from confusion to understanding, and then to rage. Son of a bitch, he muttered. This is from Camila. I nodded. She sent it to me last night. By mistake, it was for him. Do you know who he is? Sebastian, her cousin. Daniel let out a low whistle. Not Sebastian, the finance guy, the one who's always showing off, the same one. I showed him the Facebook photos, the location history, the bank withdrawals. Daniel listened to everything without interrupting, his expression growing darker and darker. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and ran his hands through his hair. What are you going to do? That was the question, right? What was I going to do? Could I confront them and end everything immediately? Could I hire a private detective to get more evidence? Could I get revenge in some spectacular way that would destroy them both? Or could I just pack my things and disappear from their lives forever? I don't know yet, I admitted. But I'm not going to act impulsively. I need to think this through. You need a place to stay. My apartment is available. Thanks, but no? If I leave now, she'll know I found out something. I need time to prepare everything. Everything what? Everything. The divorce, the division of assets, making sure she can't screw me over financially. The house is in both our names. We have joint accounts. If I act without thinking, I could end up losing half of everything I've worked for to give to a woman who is cheating on me with her cousin. Daniel nodded. You're right, but Rodrigo, you can't stay there pretending everything is fine. It's going to kill you inside. I just need a few days, a week at most, to get everything organized. We ordered food, but I barely touched a bite. Daniel told me he had suspected something months ago when he saw Camila at a restaurant downtown with a man who wasn't me. They were sitting very close, laughing, and when she saw Daniel, the expression on her face was pure panic. She told him he was a colleague from work, that they were discussing a difficult case. Daniel didn't believe her, but he didn't tell me anything either because he didn't want to cause problems in my marriage based only on suspicion. I should have told you, he apologized. Maybe you could have stopped it sooner. It's not your fault, I told him. It's their fault, only theirs. I went back to the office with a plan starting to form in my head. First, I needed to document everything, every message, every location, every suspicious expense. Second, I needed to talk to a divorce lawyer without Camila knowing. Third, I needed to move my personal money to an account that only I controlled. And fourth, I needed to decide how I was going to confront them in a way that would hurt as much as they were hurting me. That afternoon, I researched lawyers specializing in divorce. I found one with excellent reviews, specializing in infidelity cases. I scheduled an appointment for the next day during my lunch break. I also opened a new bank account at a different institution from the one Camila and I used. I transferred exactly half of our shared savings. No more, no less. I didn't want her to be able to accuse me of theft, but I also wasn't going to let her keep my money to finance her getaways with Sebastian. At 6 in the evening, Camila sent me a message. I'm leaving for the restaurant with the girls. Don't wait up. I love you. I checked her real-time location. She wasn't going to any restaurant. She was going straight to Sebastian's building. Of course, dinner with the girls was another lie. She would probably spend the night there in her cousin's arms, laughing at how stupid her husband was. I stayed at work late, something I did frequently, but this time it wasn't because of overdue reports. It was because I couldn't stand the idea of being in that empty house, surrounded by photos of a marriage that had been a lie. At 10 at night, I finally left the office. I drove by Sebastian's building. The BMW was parked outside. The lights on the 12th floor were on. That must be his unit. I parked and just sat there, looking at those lit windows, imagining what they were doing. The rage took hold of me again, so intense that I was trembling. I wanted to go up there, break down the door, confront them, but I didn't. Instead, I took more photos. The car, the building, the time. Evidence upon evidence. Accumulating for the moment, I decided to use all of this. I got home after 11, poured myself a double whiskey, and sat on the living room sofa. The dog Max came over and rested his head on my knee. At least someone in this house was still loyal to me. I petted him while I drank, letting the alcohol numb the pain a little. Camila arrived at 1 in the morning. I heard her car in the driveway, the door opening, her footsteps in the hallway. She walked into the living room and was surprised to see me there. "Rodrigo, I thought you'd be asleep." I couldn't sleep. "How was dinner?" "Good. You know, the usual. Work gossip, life complaints." She sat next to me and gave me a kiss on the cheek. "Why are you drinking? You almost never drink." "Tough day at work." I lied. I just needed to relax. She smelled of men's cologne. She hadn't even bothered to shower before coming home. The disrespect was astonishing. I stood up before I did something I might regret. "I'm going to sleep." "Are you coming?" "In a moment. I'm going to take a quick shower." Of course she was. She needed to wash away the evidence of her infidelity before getting into our bed. I went up the stairs feeling like each step required a monumental effort. I lay down and closed my eyes, but sleep didn't come. Minutes later, I heard the water running in the bathroom. Then Camila came into the room, got under the covers, and snuggled up against my back. "I love you," she whispered in my ear. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The words were stuck in my throat, mixed with disgust and pain. She fell asleep quickly, her breathing becoming deep and regular. I stayed awake, looking at the shadows on the ceiling, planning my next move. The next day was Friday. I woke up before Camila, as always. I watched her sleep for a moment, wondering how someone who looked so peaceful could be so ruthless. Her relaxed face showed no trace of guilt, no sign that she was living a double life. I got up silently and got ready for the most important day of my married life. At 9 in the morning, I had an appointment with the lawyer Mauricio Hernandez. According to his website, he had 25 years of experience in divorce cases involving infidelity. His office was downtown, an old but well-maintained building. The receptionist showed me into a conference room where Mauricio was waiting for me. He was a man in his 50s, with perfectly styled gray hair, a navy blue suit, and an expression that had seen too many stories like mine. "Mr. Torres, please have a seat. How can I help you?" I told him everything. The wrong message, the locations, the bank withdrawals, the Facebook photos, the relationship with Camila's cousin. Mauricio took meticulous notes while I spoke without interrupting, just nodding occasionally. When I finished, he put down his pen and leaned back in his chair. "Okay, first, let me say I'm very sorry. I know this is devastating. Second, let me assure you that you have a solid case, especially with the evidence you've gathered. Your wife will not be able to deny the infidelity in a divorce proceeding. How does that affect the division of assets? In our state, adultery can influence the division of property, especially if you can prove that she used marital funds to maintain the extramarital relationship. Those withdrawals you mentioned, the trips, the gifts, all of that can work in your favor. And the house is in both your names, correct?" I nodded. "Then it will be more complicated. You'll probably have to sell it and divide the proceeds, or one of you buys the other's share. But since you've been paying the majority of the mortgage, we can argue that you deserve a larger portion. How long does all this take? It depends on whether she cooperates or fights. If she agrees to the terms, we could be done in 6 months. If she decides to complicate things, it could extend to a year or more. A year more of pretending. A year more of sharing space with someone who had betrayed me in the worst possible way. The idea made my stomach turn. Is there any way to speed up the process? We can push for a quick settlement, especially if we threaten to make the evidence of her infidelity public. Many people prefer to settle quickly and privately rather than face public humiliation. I'm interested in that." Mauricio explained the next steps. I needed to gather more evidence in the coming days. Every message, every photo, every receipt. I also needed to make a complete inventory of our shared assets. The house, the cars, the bank accounts, the investments, everything had to be documented before filing for divorce. One more thing, Mauricio said as he walked me to the exit. Don't confront your wife yet. I know it's difficult, but the longer she goes without knowing that you know, the more time you'll have to prepare. And believe me, in these cases, preparation is everything. I left the lawyer's office feeling strangely empowered. I had a plan. I had a professional on my side. I had evidence. I was no longer just a betrayed husband. I was someone who was taking control of his situation. The feeling of helplessness I had felt since that night of the message was beginning to transform into determination. I went back to the office and immersed myself in work for the first time in days. I needed to keep everything as normal as possible. I couldn't raise suspicion. That afternoon, Camila sent me a message asking if I wanted her to cook something special for dinner. I replied yes, that lasagna sounded good. She replied with a heart emoji, as if everything were perfectly fine in our marriage. I got home at 6. Camila was already in the kitchen with her apron on, chopping vegetables for the salad. The scene was so domestic, so normal, that for a moment I felt that maybe it had all been a terrible misunderstanding. But then I saw her phone on the kitchen counter with the screen lit up by a notification. I saw the name before she could grab it. Sebastian, a kiss emoji. She quickly locked the screen when she saw me looking. Everything okay at work? She asked too cheerfully. Yes, I replied. And how about you? Quiet. I finished early today, so I took the opportunity to go to the supermarket and prepare something nice. We had dinner while talking about trivial things. The dog needed to go to the vet. The washing machine was making a strange noise. The neighbors were going to remodel their patio. Established couple conversation, comfortable, routine, and completely fake. At least on her side, because while she was talking about broken appliances, I was thinking about how I was going to dismantle her life piece by piece. That night, when Camila fell asleep, I took her phone from the bedside table. I knew her password. We were spouses. We were supposed to trust each other. What irony. I unlocked the phone and opened her messages. The conversation with Sebastian made me feel physically sick. The messages were explicit. They talked about what they had done the night before, what they wanted to do next time, how boring I was in comparison. There were photos I shouldn't have seen, videos that were supposed to be for no one else's eyes, and worst of all, conversations about me, about how Sebastian thought I was an idiot, how Camila laughed at my attempts to be romantic, how they planned to finally be together openly once she got rid of him. I captured every message, every photo, every video. Everything was saved to a folder in the cloud that only I could access. The evidence kept piling up. When I was done, I put the phone exactly where it was and went back to my side of the bed. Camila stirred in her sleep, murmuring something unintelligible, probably dreaming of her lover. On Saturday, Camila announced that she had to go to work for a few hours. Extra work they had asked her to do for Monday. Another lie. I checked her location when she left. Of course, she went straight to Sebastian's building. I took the opportunity to do my own work. I called a locksmith and asked how much it would cost to change all the locks on the house. I called the alarm company and changed all the access codes, putting them in my name only. I called the bank and froze our joint savings account, requiring that any withdrawal needed both our signatures. I also hired a private investigator, not because I needed more evidence of the infidelity, but because I wanted to know exactly how long this had been going on. The investigator, a man named Arturo with years of experience in marital cases, promised me results in a week for $500. He would give me a complete report with dates, places, frequency of meetings, everything I needed to destroy any argument Camila might try to present. Sunday was the hardest day. It was Camila's mother's birthday, Dona Mercedes. The whole family would be there, including Sebastian. The idea of seeing him, of having to shake his hand and act as if everything were fine, filled me with rage, but I had to do it. I couldn't raise suspicion. Not yet. Dona Mercedes's house was large and noisy, full of cousins, uncles, grandparents. Camila's family was numerous and close, or at least they appeared to be. I wondered how many of them knew about the infidelity, how many had kept the secret, how many looked at me and thought, what an idiot for not realizing. Sebastian arrived late, as always, making a grand entrance with a bouquet of expensive flowers for his aunt. He saw Camila and greeted her with a kiss on the cheek that lasted a second too long. Then he came over to me with that fake smile I now recognized for what it was. Rodrigo Cunedo, how are you? He extended his hand. I shook it, squeezing harder than necessary. Very well, Sebastian. And you? How's the world of finance? Excellent. We just closed a major deal. It's going to be a great year. I'm happy for you. We just stood there. Two men who shared a secret that only one of them knew. I watched him look for Camila with his eyes, find her on the other side of the patio, exchange a knowing smile. The audacity was astonishing. They were having an affair behind the whole family's back, and they didn't even bother to be discreet. During the meal, I sat next to Camila. Sebastian was diagonal to us, and I could feel their constant glances. Camila would put her hand on mine from time to time, the gesture of a loving wife, but under the table, her foot played with Sebastian's. I saw it, the expression on his face when she did it, the little wink he gave her when no one else was looking. Are you okay, love? Camila asked in a low voice. You look tense. I'm fine, just tired from work. You should take a few days off. We could go somewhere. How about the beach? The beach, like the trip you took with your friends. Exactly. It would do you good to relax a bit. We'll see. After lunch, while the men played dominoes on the patio and the women cleaned the kitchen, Camila's father called me aside. Don Ernesto was a serious man, a few words, but he had always treated me with respect. Rodrigo, can I talk to you for a moment? Of course, Don Ernesto. We moved away from the noise of the party to the backyard. Don Ernesto lit a cigarette and offered me one. I declined. How are things with Camila? He asked bluntly. The question took me by surprise. Fine. Why do you ask? Just a father's curiosity. Sometimes I feel like she's not as present as she used to be, more distracted. I'm worried that maybe you're having problems. I had to bite my tongue to not spill everything right there, to not tell him that his daughter was destroying our marriage with his own cousin. But Don Ernesto didn't deserve to find out like that. He needed time to process this too. Everything's fine, I lied. Just work stress for both of us. He nodded, but he didn't seem convinced. If you ever need to talk, I'm here. Camila is my daughter, but you're part of this family too. His words hit me with unexpected force. Don Ernesto considered me family, but his nephew and daughter hadn't given me the same respect. I said goodbye to him with a lump in my throat and went back to the party. The rest of the day passed in a blur. More food, more laughter, more trivial conversations. Sebastian and Camila staying close, but not too close. Playing their parts perfectly. I was playing mine too. The devoted husband, the respectful son-in-law, the man who had no idea his life was in pieces. When we finally left, it was already night. In the car, Camila was unusually quiet. Did you enjoy the party? I asked. Yes. It's always nice to see the whole family together. Sebastian looked good. It seems like he's doing great at work. Yes, he's always done well. He's very hardworking. Hardworking. That was one word to describe him. I had others. Traitor, scoundrel, son of that night. While Camila slept, I received an email from the private investigator. He already had preliminary information. He attached photos of Camila and Sebastian entering and leaving the apartment building, photos of them at restaurants, photos of them on the beach in Mazatlan, dates that went back 8 months. 8 months of lies, 8 months of betrayal, months in which I had been a laughingstock without knowing it. But that was about to end. In a week, I would have the full report. In 2 weeks, Mauricio would have the divorce papers ready. And then Camila and Sebastian would discover that the idiot had been several steps ahead the whole time. Monday morning came with an unexpected call. It was Arturo, the private investigator. Rodrigo, I need you to come to my office today. I found something you need to see in person. His tone was urgent, almost worried. I canceled 2 meetings and left the office at 10. Arturo's office was in a discreet building near the center. It was a small but professional space, with metal filing cabinets and a desk covered in folders. He greeted me with a serious expression. Sit down. This is going to be hard to hear. I already know about the infidelity. It can't be worse than that. Arturo opened a folder and took out several documents. Believe me, it's worse. Your wife and Sebastian aren't just having an affair, they're planning something bigger. He showed me printouts of messages he had managed to intercept with specialized equipment, conversations between Camila and Sebastian that went beyond sexual encounters. They were planning a future together, but not just that, they were planning how to keep everything. According to these messages, Arturo continued, They have been consulting with a lawyer for months. They are preparing the ground so that when Camila asks for a divorce, she gets the house, most of the savings, and alimony from you. Alimony. But she works not for long. Look at this. He showed me another document. Camila has already submitted her resignation at the firm where she works. Effective next month. The plan is that when you are served the divorce papers, she will claim that she left her career to support yours and that she now needs financial support while she reestablishes herself. The blood froze in my veins. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was preparing to destroy me financially. It had all been calculated. The resignation, the timing, even probably the moment when I would discover the infidelity. There's more, Arturo said, and his expression became even more somber. Sebastian is involved in something shady. I found records of large money transfers from corporate accounts to personal accounts. I think he's embezzling funds from his company. And guess what? Some of those transfers went to the joint account you share with Camila. I felt the world stop. Are you saying there's stolen money in my bank account? Not much. About $20,000 spread over several small transfers over 3 months, probably to avoid raising red flags. But yes, there is money of questionable origin in your account. And guess who would be the suspect if this comes to light? Me. Because it was in my account. My name was on the bank records. Exactly. If Sebastian's company discovers the fraud, he can easily divert attention to you. After all, the money ended up in an account where you are a holder. The magnitude of what they were planning hit me like a freight train. They didn't just want my money. They wanted to completely destroy me, leave me in financial ruin and possibly with legal problems. The betrayal was much deeper than I had imagined. What can I do? Arturo leaned back in his chair. First, you need to move that suspicious money immediately. Separate it from your legitimate funds. Create a paper trail that shows you didn't know where that money came from. Second, you need to report this. If Sebastian is going to fall, it's better that he does it before he drags you down with him. But if I report this, Camila could also get into legal trouble. Arturo looked me straight in the eyes. That woman is planning to ruin you. Do you really care about protecting her? He was right. Camila had lost the right to my protection the moment she decided to conspire against me. Still, the idea of taking actions that could get her into legal trouble made my stomach turn. Not because I still loved her, but because I had never been that kind of person. I had never wanted to deliberately hurt anyone. Give me 24 hours to think about it, I told Arturo. You don't have much time. According to these messages, they plan to move on you in 2 weeks. They're going to serve the papers right after Camila leaves her job. So, I have 2 weeks to get ahead of them. I left Arturo's office feeling like I had been run over. I sat in my car for almost an hour trying to process all the information. The woman I had married, whom I had sworn to love and protect, was trying to systematically destroy me, and not just emotionally, but financially and legally as well. I called Mauricio, my lawyer. I told him everything Arturo had discovered. He was silent for a long moment. Rodrigo, this changes everything. We're not just talking about a divorce for infidelity anymore. We're talking about fraud, conspiracy, possible embezzlement. I need you to come to my office right now and bring all the evidence you have. I arrived at Mauricio's office an hour later. We spent 3 hours reviewing every document, every message, every bank transaction. Mauricio took notes frantically, his expression growing more and more serious. Okay, he said finally. This is what we're going to do. First, you're going to file for divorce tomorrow. We can't wait for them to get ahead of us. Second, we're going to file a lawsuit for fraud against your wife. She knew about that money and didn't tell you. That's complicity. Third, we're going to report Sebastian to his company and possibly to the authorities. If he falls, let him fall alone. And if Camila tries to turn everything against me, that's why we act first. We're going to present all this evidence before she can build her narrative. We're going to show that you were the victim here, not the conspirator. How much time do we have? The papers can be ready by noon tomorrow. We can serve them tomorrow afternoon if you want to move quickly. Do it. That night I got home late. Camila was in the living room watching TV. She was surprised to see me. I thought you'd be home earlier. I saved you dinner. Thanks. I had a lot of work. I heated up my food while she continued to watch her show. I watched her move around the kitchen, pour herself water, check her phone. She acted completely normal, as if she wasn't planning to ruin my life, as if she hadn't been coordinating with her lover to destroy me. The ability to pretend so perfectly was terrifying. Are you okay? She asked, noticing my stare. You look tense, just tired. Are you sure? You've been strange lately. Is there something you want to tell me? The irony of her question almost made me laugh. She was the one with secrets. She was the one living a lie, and she had the audacity to ask me if I had something to tell her. No, everything's fine, just work. She came over and gave me a kiss on the forehead. If something's bothering you, you can tell me. We're a team, remember? A team. Right. The team where she and her accomplice conspired against me. That night, while Camila slept, I packed my essential things in a suitcase: clothes, important documents, personal items, everything I would need to not return to this house for a while. I put it all in the trunk of my car before she woke up. The next day, after serving her the papers, I wasn't going to stay to see her reaction. I wasn't going to give her the opportunity to manipulate me or to turn things around. Tuesday dawned cold and gray. I woke up with a knot in my stomach. Today was the day everything would explode. I got ready as always, following the morning routine we had established for years. But this would be the last time. After today, nothing would be the same. Camila woke up when I was getting out of the shower. "Good morning," she murmured in a sleepy voice. "Good morning. You have to leave so early. Important meeting. Good luck. I love you." The words sounded hollow to me. Empty. Lies she repeated out of habit rather than real feeling. I didn't answer. I just took my briefcase and left the room. At 9 in the morning, I was in Mauricio's office. The papers were ready. Divorce petition for cause of infidelity. Lawsuit for fraud. Temporary restraining order to prevent Camila from accessing the bank accounts. Everything perfectly documented with every piece of evidence attached. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Mauricio asked. "Once we serve these papers, there's no going back. I'm sure. She was planning to do this to me. I'm just getting ahead of her." Mauricio nodded. "The sheriff is going to her work at 2 p.m. It will be public, professional, legal. Perfect." The next few hours passed in slow motion. I tried to work, but I couldn't concentrate. I looked at the clock every 5 minutes. At 1:30, Mauricio called me. He confirmed that the sheriff was on his way. At 2 o'clock, I received a text message. "Papers served." She's in shock. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief because I had finally acted. Sadness because this marked the definitive end of 6 years of marriage. Good or bad, real or fake. Those years had existed, and now they were ending in the most bitter way possible. My phone started ringing almost immediately. "Camila," I rejected the call. She called again. I rejected it again. Then the messages came. "What does this mean? Divorce? Are you crazy? Call me right now. Rodrigo, this is a mistake. We can talk. Don't do this." I blocked her number. Mauricio had advised me to have zero direct contact. Everything had to go through lawyers now. Minutes later, calls from her family began, her mother, her sister. Even Don Ernesto called. I didn't answer any of them. I had nothing to say to them. Not yet. At 3 in the afternoon, I received another call. It was from the Human Resources Department of Sebastian's company. They had been presented with the anonymous report about the suspicious transfers. They were starting an internal investigation. Sebastian had been suspended immediately while they reviewed the records. Everything was falling into place. The conspiracy they had so carefully crafted was falling apart. And this was just the beginning. At 4 in the afternoon, Daniel called me. "Rodrigo, where are you? Camila just showed up at my apartment. She's a mess. She says you served her divorce papers at work. She says you're making a mistake, that she needs to talk to you." "I'm not going to talk to her. Everything goes through lawyers now." "She's crying, brother. She says she can explain everything, that things aren't as they seem." I let out a bitter laugh. "They're not as they seem, Daniel. She's been sleeping with her cousin for 8 months. She was planning to leave me in financial ruin. There's stolen money in our accounts that she knew perfectly well where it came from. What part is not as it seems?" Daniel sighed. "You're right. I just wanted to let you know. Where are you staying?" "In a hotel for now. I'll look for an apartment this weekend. My door is open if you need it." "I know. Thanks, brother." That night, I slept in a hotel near my office, an impersonal room that smelled of disinfectant and starched sheets. I ordered room service and ate alone while I reviewed the documents Mauricio had sent me. The legal process had officially begun. There was no turning back. My phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. "Rodrigo, it's Sebastian. We need to talk. This is getting out of control. We can resolve everything without lawyers or reports. Call me." I took a screenshot and sent it to Mauricio. His response was immediate. Don't answer. He's trying to do damage control. Let him sink on his own. Wednesday dawned with more calls from Camila's family. This time I answered one. It was Don Ernesto. His voice sounded tired and disappointed. Rodrigo, can you at least tell me what happened? Camila says it's a misunderstanding. That you're acting out of unfounded jealousy. Don Ernesto, with all due respect, it's not unfounded jealousy when I have 8 months of photographic evidence of your daughter entering and leaving Sebastian's apartment. It's not jealousy when I have explicit messages between them. It's not jealousy when I discover that they were planning to leave me in financial ruin. The silence on the other end of the line was long and heavy. Sebastian, my nephew Sebastian. Yes, my God. I heard his voice break. Rodrigo, I didn't know anything. You have to believe me if I had known. I believe you, Don Ernesto, and I'm sorry. I know this is going to tear the family apart, but I can't let them destroy my life just to keep the family peace. I understand. You have every right. I need to process this, but I want you to know that I deeply regret what they did to you. You didn't deserve this. Thank you. After hanging up, I felt strangely hollow. Don Ernesto had been more of a father to me in those 5 minutes than my own distant parents had ever been, and now I was losing that relationship too, but there was no other choice. I had to protect myself. On Thursday, Arturo's full report arrived. 300 pages documenting every encounter, every lie, every suspicious bank transfer, photos with timestamps, recovered messages, hotel records, all meticulously organized and verifiable. Mauricio reviewed it and whistled. With this, Camila has no defense and Sebastian is going straight to jail if the company decides to press charges. Do you think they will? With this amount of money involved, almost $50,000 diverted over a year, they're definitely going to press charges. They've already contacted the authorities. That afternoon, I received a call from a private number. It was an investigator from the corporate fraud department. She needed me to give my testimony about the transfers to my bank account. We agreed to meet on Friday morning. Friday came with torrential rain. I met with the investigator, a professional woman named Andrea Ruiz at the prosecutor's offices. I gave her all the documents Arturo had compiled. She reviewed them with an increasingly serious expression. Mr. Torres, did you have any knowledge that this money came from corporate accounts? None. I thought they were bonuses or legitimate income from Sebastian. He's the boyfriend. Well, my wife's lover. I didn't handle the finances she managed. When did you discover the relationship between them? 2 weeks ago, she sent me a message by mistake that was intended for him. I showed her the original message. Andrea took note of everything based on the evidence. I don't believe you're involved in the fraud. It seems clear that you were used as an intermediary without your knowledge. However, we will need your full cooperation in the case against Mr. Sebastian Delgado and possibly against your wife. You have my full cooperation. I left that meeting feeling lighter. At least I wouldn't face criminal charges, but Sebastian would, and possibly Camila too if they proved she knew the origin of the money, which, according to the messages Arturo had recovered, she definitely did. That afternoon, while I was looking for apartments online, I received an unexpected visitor at my hotel. There was a knock on the door, and when I opened it, it was Camila. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her makeup was smudged. Her hair was disheveled. She looked devastated. How did you know where I was? I asked Daniel to tell me. Please, Rodrigo, I need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. Everything goes through lawyers. Please, 5 minutes. That's all I ask. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She stood in the center of the room, wringing her hands. Rodrigo, I'm sorry. I know it doesn't mean anything now, but I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. A mistake, Camila. It was 8 months. 8 months of lies, of betrayal, of planning how to destroy me. That's not a mistake. It's a conscious and sustained decision. It wasn't like that. At first it was just, I don't know how to explain it. Sebastian was there when you were working so much. He made me feel seen, special. So it was my fault for working to maintain the house we shared. I'm not saying that. I know it's my fault, all my fault, but I wasn't planning to leave you in ruin. That was Sebastian's idea. I never wanted to hurt you like that, but you allowed it. You quit your job, you let him put stolen money in our account. You planned to serve divorce papers to keep everything. Don't act like you're an innocent, manipulated victim. Tears were running down her face. You're right. You're right about everything. I was weak. I was selfish. I was terrible. But please, Is there no way to fix this, to start over? I looked at her, this woman who had been my wife, my partner, my best friend, and I felt nothing. The love had completely evaporated, replaced by a cold indifference. There's no going back, Camila. You destroyed something that can't be repaired. Sign the divorce papers, cooperate with the process, and maybe, just maybe, this can end without both of us being completely destroyed. And Sebastian will face the consequences of his actions, just like you. She just stood there, sobbing silently. Finally, she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Did you ever really love me? Yes, I loved you with everything I had. That's why what you did hurt so much. She went to the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, I loved you too. I know it doesn't seem like it now, but I did, and I'm going to live with this remorse for the rest of my life. When she left, I sat on the bed and let the emotions finally flood me. I cried for the marriage I had lost, for the years invested in someone who didn't value them, for the in-laws I would also lose. But I also cried with relief because now I could finally start to heal. The following Monday, Camila signed the divorce papers. She didn't fight for the house or the savings. Her lawyer had reviewed the evidence we had and advised her to accept the terms we offered. House sold, profits split in half, savings divided equally, no alimony from either of us. Clean and simple. Sebastian wasn't so lucky. The company's investigation found that he had diverted almost $50,000 over 2 years, not just to my account, but to several different accounts. He was arrested on Tuesday afternoon. Camila was questioned, but no charges were filed against her for lack of evidence that she actively participated in the fraud. The messages showed she knew, but didn't prove direct participation. The news of the arrest spread quickly through the family. Don Ernesto called me personally to apologize for his nephew. The family was divided. Some blamed Camila for leading Sebastian astray. Others blamed Sebastian for taking advantage of a married woman. Very few recognized that both were equally guilty. I moved into a small but comfortable apartment in a building overlooking the park. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. No bitter memories, no ghosts of the past. A clean space to start over. Daniel helped me move. While we were unpacking boxes, he asked, "How do you feel?" "Free," I replied. And true, for the first time in months I felt genuinely free. 6 months after the divorce, my life had taken a completely different turn. The house was sold for a good price, and I received my fair share. I used that money to buy a larger apartment in a better area of the city. 2 bedrooms, a balcony with a view, a gym in the building, a place that was completely mine, with no ties to the past. Work became my refuge during the first few months. I was promoted to regional manager, a position I had been seeking for years. The irony was not lost on me. While I was married, dedicated to maintaining a fake marriage, I had been overlooked. Now, focused only on myself, I was finally recognized. Daniel remained my unwavering support. On Friday nights we would meet for dinner and watch a game. He never pressured me to talk about Camila or the divorce. He was just there, a constant and loyal presence, what a true friend should be. One November afternoon, while I was having coffee at my favorite coffee shop near the park, a woman approached my table. Rodrigo Torres, I looked up. She was a woman of about my age, with brown hair pulled back, bright green eyes. She seemed vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place her. "I'm Valeria. We worked together about 5 years ago at your old company, International Logistics." The memory came flooding back. Valeria had been my project partner on a large contract with a Canadian company. We had spent weeks working together before she accepted a position in another city. "Valeria, of course. How have you been?" "Good. I just moved back to the city. I was offered to head the operations department at a new company. I saw your name on LinkedIn the other day and thought I'd say hello if we ever cross paths." We talked for almost an hour. She told me about her years in Guadalajara, about her career, about her return. It was easy to talk to her. There was no tension or ulterior motives, just 2 old colleagues catching up. When she said goodbye, she gave me her card. "If you ever want to have real coffee, not just a chance encounter, call me." I stared at the card after she left. I wasn't ready for a relationship. I wasn't even sure I wanted to trust someone like that again, but maybe eventually when the wounds had healed a bit more. Don Ernesto still called me occasionally. We had maintained a cordial relationship. Despite everything, he told me that Camila had left the city, moving to Puebla to start over, away from the gossip and the stares. She was working in a small accounting firm and living alone. According to Don Ernesto, she had changed. She was in therapy, working on herself, facing the consequences of her actions. I hope she finds peace, I told him sincerely. But that's not my responsibility anymore. I know, son. I just wanted you to know. And I also want you to know that my wife and I still consider you family. Camila's actions don't change that. His words moved me more than I expected. Thank you, Don Ernesto. That means a lot. Sebastian wasn't so lucky in finding redemption. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison for corporate fraud. His career in finance was destroyed. His family, deeply ashamed, had cut off almost all contact with him. I heard through the grapevine that he had lost everything. The luxurious apartment, the BMW, the image of a successful executive. It had all evaporated in a matter of weeks. I felt no particular satisfaction at his downfall, just a cold recognition that actions have consequences. He had chosen the path of deceit and betrayal. Now he was living with the results. One evening, almost 8 months after the divorce, I was having dinner alone at a restaurant when I saw someone familiar at a table on the other side of the room. It was Camila, but a different Camila from the one I remembered. Her hair was shorter, without elaborate makeup, dressed in simple clothes. She was with an older woman whom I assumed was a friend or perhaps her therapist. She looked thinner, more tired, but also more real in a way. Our eyes met across the restaurant. I saw the recognition in her eyes, followed by something like panic. But she didn't get up or approach. She just nodded slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. Before turning back to her conversation, I did the same. There was nothing more to say. We were two strangers who once shared a life. When I left the restaurant that night, I realized I no longer felt anger when I thought about her. Not even pain, just a kind of distant melancholy for what could have been, but never was. The poison of betrayal had finally left my system. 2 weeks later, I called Valeria. She agreed to have dinner with me, not as a romantic date, we both clarified, but as two professionals who enjoyed each other's company. We talked about work, about travel, about books we had read. It was light, easy, uncomplicated. At the end of the night, as we walked to her car, she said something that stayed with me. You know, Rodrigo, someone once told me that we can't control how others treat us, but we can control how we respond. I think you've handled all this with a lot of dignity. I didn't always feel dignified. There were times when I wanted revenge. I wanted them to suffer as much as I suffered, but you didn't. You let them face the natural consequences of their actions. That takes strength. Maybe I was just too tired to fight. She smiled. Either way, you came out on the other side. That's what matters. The first anniversary of that wrong message came on a random Tuesday. I only realized the date because Daniel called to check on me. Honestly, I had almost forgotten. The sharp pain had become a distant memory. I'm fine, I told him. I'm really fine. And it was true. I had built a new life. A life based on authenticity, not appearances. Surrounded by people who genuinely valued me. Doing a job that satisfied me. Living in a space that reflected who I was, not who I thought I should be to make someone else happy. Valeria and I started seeing each other more frequently. We didn't rush anything. We had both been in relationships that moved too fast and ended badly. This time we were building something slowly. Friendship first, trust earned over time, honesty from the beginning. One spring afternoon, almost a year and a half after the divorce, we were walking in the park when Valeria asked me, "Do you ever think about contacting Camila? You know, for closure or something?" I thought about it for a moment. No, the closure came when we signed the papers, when we each went our separate ways. I don't need a dramatic conversation or an emotional reconciliation. I've made peace with what happened. That seems healthy. Many people get stuck in the past. The past is past. I prefer to focus on building something better. She intertwined her hand with mine. I think you're already doing that. Don Ernesto invited me to his 65th birthday. It was the first time I had attended a family event since the divorce. Camila wasn't there. She still lived in Puebla, but the rest of the family welcomed me warmly. Not as the ex-son-in-law, but simply as Rodrigo, someone they had known, valued, and hurt. Someone who had responded with grace to an impossible situation. During the party, Camila's younger sister, Daniela, approached me. "I never apologized to you," she said in a low voice, "for not seeing, for not telling you what was happening. Some of us knew. Well, we suspected, but no one wanted to get involved. I understand. Family dynamics are complicated. Still, I should have been better to you. I'm sorry. It's in the past, Daniela." Really, Camila asks about you sometimes. When we talk on the phone, never directly, but she asks how you are. I think she still cares about you. I hope she's well, sincerely. But that chapter is closed for me. She nodded with understanding. You deserve to be happy, Rodrigo, and I'm glad you seem to be. I drove home that night reflecting on what happiness really meant. It wasn't the absence of pain or betrayal. It was the ability to move on despite them. It was building something new from the ashes of the old. It was surrounding yourself with people who lifted you up instead of dragging you down. 2 years after that message that changed everything, I proposed to Valeria. It wasn't an elaborate production, just the two of us in the same park where we had reconnected, under the same tree where we had had so many important conversations. She said yes with tears in her eyes and a smile that lit up her whole face. Daniel was my best man. Don Ernesto came to the wedding, proud as if it were his own son getting married. My colleagues, new friends I had made in recent years, filled the chairs. It was a small but genuine celebration. Every person there truly knew me and chose to be present. During the toast, Daniel told the story of how he had seen my transformation over the past few years. Rodrigo went through something that would have destroyed many men, he said. But instead of becoming bitter, he chose to grow. Instead of closing himself off to love, he allowed himself to find it again. That takes a special kind of courage. While I was dancing with Valeria that night, I saw the future clearly for the first time in years. A future built on solid foundations of mutual respect, honest communication, and genuine love. Not the romantic fantasy I had pursued with Camila, but something real and sustainable. What are you thinking about? Valeria asked, her head resting on my shoulder. About how lucky I am. About how something so painful led me exactly where I needed to be. Do you believe in fate? So, I believe in second chances and in taking them when they come. Years later, when I tell this story to people who are going through similar betrayals, I always tell them the same thing. The pain eventually subsides. The rage transforms, and if you allow yourself to heal properly, you can emerge stronger on the other side. Not without scars, but with wisdom. Not without pain, but with resilience. Camila never contacted me directly again. I heard from Don Ernesto that she eventually married someone in Puebla, an accountant like her, someone quiet and stable. I hope she found what she was looking for. I hope she learned from her mistakes. But honestly, it's not my concern anymore. Sebastian got out of prison after 3 years for good behavior. Don Ernesto told me he was working in a hardware store, living with his mother, trying to rebuild his life from scratch. The golden cousin had fallen from grace completely. His punishment didn't come from my revenge, but from the natural consequences of his own decisions. So, what did I learn from all this? That infidelity says more about the person who commits it than about the person betrayed. That you can do everything right and still be deeply hurt. That trust, once broken, may never be fully repaired with that person, but that doesn't mean you can't trust again. I learned that the sweetest revenge is not destroying the person who hurt you, but building a life so full that their betrayal becomes a simple footnote in your story. That real success is in getting up every day and choosing to move forward, even when every fiber of your being wants to stay stuck in the pain. And above all, I learned that a message sent to the wrong person can be exactly the right message at the perfect time, because without that accidental revelation, I might have spent years more living a lie. Now I live a truth, my truth. And that's worth more than any marriage built on secrets. Have you ever faced a betrayal that you thought would destroy you, but that in the end made you stronger? Have you had to rebuild your life from scratch after someone you trusted completely let you down? I would like to know your experience in the comments. Sometimes knowing that we are not alone in these processes makes all the difference. And if you're going through something similar right now, I want you to know this. Yes, it hurts. It hurts terribly, but it won't last forever. The sharp pain eventually becomes a dull ache, and then just a memory. And on the other side of that pain is a wiser, stronger, more authentic version of you.